Trying to pass it up to Dowling, and there's the pass to Dowling. Dowling going to take a shot. Audrey Keener across to Keyser. Keyser shot in and
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Plasman Athletic Center here in Fort Wayne, Indiana at Turnstone. Our next match coming up right now, a Champions Conference match. The Minnesota Northern Lights versus the Northeast Passage Wildcats. For Power Soccer Shop, I'm Tony Jackson. Quick rundown of the lineups. In goal for the Northern Lights, number 10, Jason Vetsky. Also on the floor, number 18, Grant Larson. In the middle, number 8, Lene Larson, and rounding out their lineup, number 9, Michael Sack. For the Wildcats in goal, number 21, Austin LeClaire. Also on the floor, number 10, Ryan Vigneault. Lucas Courier out there as well for the Wildcats. And number 28, Spencer DeFosis. Corner kick coming up for the Northern Lights. Also out here right now competing on court 2. SoCal Vaqueros versus the Turnstone Flyers. On court 3, Circle City Rollers and the San Jose Steamrollers. And court 4, the PRHC Chariots versus the Arizona Heat. Lene Larson with the kick. That ball tipped off by Lucas Courier. 3 in the box violation. So we're going to get an indirect free kick for the Northern Lights. Lene Larson going to take this kick. Grant Larson waiting for a deflection, it looks like. So referee instructing Austin LeClaire that he has to be behind the goal line. And now we are ready. Lene Larson going to take the kick. That ball off the post. Michael Sack trying to attack. And now LeClaire. Grant Larson. Lene Larson with a 180 spin kick to Grant Larson. Grant Larson across. It's blocked off. And now DeFosis takes the ball away from Lene Larson. That ball bouncing around. Lucas Courier. The ball kicked out to Grant Larson. That ball deflecting down the floor. Now DeFosis and Vigneault both chasing. Vetsky is going to just let it roll out. It's going to be a Northern Lights goal kick. Already 1-0 on court 2. Turnstone Flyers leading the SoCal Vaqueros. No score in the other matches at the moment. Lene Larson over to her brother Grant Larson. DeFosis strips the ball away. DeFosis pushing through. DeFosis. Heavy contact. That ball off of Larson and out of play. Kick in coming up for the Wildcats. Lene Larson sends it to DeFosis. That ball deflects to Michael Sack, who can't get to it. Kick in Wildcats. Vigneault over to Courier, trying to get behind Larson. Courier working against Lene Larson. That ball still in play. Nicely done by Lene Larson. Now Michael Sack with the ball. Courier off of Sack. Courier. That's a 2-on-1 violation on Minnesota, but the play continues. Lene Larson, the last to touch it, it goes out for a Wildcats kick-in. DeFosis into Vetsky. And now DeFosis was the last to touch it, so Leclerc has to come up and make a play on it. But he didn't realize that the ball had gone off of DeFosis, so this is a corner kick coming up for the Northern Lights. Lene Larson going to take the kick. Grant Larson at the near post. Michael Sack at the far post. Off of Grant Larson, off of Lene Larson. Goal kick coming up for Northeast Passage. Courier right up the middle to Lene Larson. Courier over to Vigneault. That ball off of Vigneault. He can't keep it in play. Kick in coming up for the Northern Lights. Sack. Vigneault misses the ball. Contact by Lene Larson. Kick in for the Wildcats once again. Lene Larson with space. Grant Larson now. Lene Larson, the shot back over to Grant Larson. Grant Larson, the shot, save Leclerc. That's close to a 2-on-1 violation. That ball goes out for another corner kick. Grant Larson off of Austin Leclerc. That one off of Lene Larson. Ball still in play. That one goes out off of Lene Larson. Kick in coming up once again for the Wildcats. We have a substitution. Adam Villeneuve into the match for Ryan Vigneault for Northeast Passage. And that ball backed out of play by Lene Larson. The Wildcats having a little bit of trouble moving the ball down the pitch at the moment. Minnesota Northern Lights putting on a lot of pressure. And a substitution for the Northern Lights coming out of the match. Michael Sack coming on in his place. Number 13, Josh Miller. DeFosis, Courier, Grant Larson, Lucas Courier. That ball off of Courier and out of play. Grant Larson, that ball gets through. Josh Miller can't connect to it, but it's still going to be a kick in for the Northern Lights. On court 2, the Turnstone Flyers have scored again. It's 2-0. And on court 4, the PRHC Chariots lead 1-0 over the Arizona Heat. Now Austin Leclerc tries to get the ball out of the area. Lucas Courier. Courier trying to get around Lene Larson. And he does. Nicely done. Lucas Courier, strong move there to hold on to the ball. Josh Miller almost hits Courier. That ball comes out to Courier. Lene Larson clears it. Adam Villeneuve now kicking the ball in right into Jason Vetsky, but he misses. Lene Larson collects the ball. DeFosis winds up the cross. Villeneuve misses the ball. Vetsky now with it. Jason Vetsky taking on Lucas Courier. Grant Larson, that ball out of play. Minnesota Northern Lights kicking coming up. And on court 2, lots of scoring going on. SoCal Vaqueros have put one on the board. It's 2-1 in favor of the Turnstone Flyers. And that ball comes all the way through. Josh Miller couldn't get it. Courier into Grant Larson. Josh Miller's got it. Lene Larson tried to pass it over to Miller. Grant Larson now. Grant Larson back to Lene Larson. Right into Lucas Courier. Lucas Courier can't keep the ball in play. Kicking coming up. Minnesota Northern Lights. That ball almost gets through. Corner kick coming up. Lene Larson, Grant Larson stops that ball. Close to a 2-on-1. Lucas Courier with a save there. Lene Larson hits it out of play. Kick in. Northeast Passage Wildcats. Courier sends it all the way up the floor, but Josh Miller cuts it off. That's going to go out for another goal kick. Vigno back to Courier, off of Larson. Another 2-on-1 situation. Play continues though. Villeneuve taking on Grant Larson. That ball off of Larson. Grant Larson with the ball. Lucas Courier hits it out of play. LeClaire hits it off. Grant Larson with a huge shot off the back of LeClaire. Corner kick coming up for the Northern Lights. Grant Larson, Lene Larson, the shot wide of the near post. Another goal kick coming up for Northeast Passage. Courier off of Miller. Vigno, who is now back in the match in place of Spencer DeFosis. That's close to a 2-on-1 violation. The referee allowing the advantage to play out. Nicely done by Lene Larson. And Lucas Courier recovers quite well. And that ball passed off. Josh Miller's there for the Northern Lights. LeClaire has to make a play on it. LeClaire, the pass across. Grant Larson, the save. Lucas Courier. And a 2-on-1 violation. Grant and Lene Larson. Grant Larson trying to get around Courier. That ball out of play. Josh Miller coming out with the game coming on in his place. Number 14, Chelsea Knutson. Grant Larson. And that ball bounces off both defenders and up the post, out for a corner kick. Grant Larson, Lene Larson, Lucas Courier. That ball off of Courier. And another substitution for the Northeast Passage Wildcats. Back into the match, Spencer DeFosis. Larson, that ball off the back of Lene Larson, and Austin Leclerc making contact with Lene Larson. Now Lucas Courier taking on Larson.
Come on, Lou, come on.
Grant Larson thought about winding up for a shot, but Lucas Courier closed him down. Ball out of play, another kick in coming up for the Northern Lights. And again, Northeast Passage really having trouble right now getting the ball out of the area. They're doing a lot of defending here in this first half. That ball gets almost through there. Austin Leclerc with it, and Austin Leclerc sends it out. Another kick in coming up for the Northern Lights. That ball almost gets across. Vigno over to DeFosis. Now DeFosis on the counterattack. DeFosis, the deflection off of Vetsky. That ball heads back the other way. Leclerc is going to make a play on it, and he passes it out to Knutson. Chelsea Knutson couldn't latch onto it, though. Just fortunate for the Wildcats, but good counterattack play by Northeast Passage. Knutson, DeFosis. Nice move by Grant Larson. Lucas Courier hits it out of play. Grant Larson off the back of Lene Larson. Now a shot, Grant Larson. That one off of Leclerc. Lucas Courier had to hurry up and make a save. Grant Larson. Knutson with a shot, and it goes off the front of Austin Leclerc for a goal. Minnesota Northern Lights 1-0. And you see Grant Larson just rifle a ball all the way across the area, and Knutson bounces it off of the guard of Austin Leclerc. And the Northern Lights are on the board. 18th minute. It's halftime on court 2. Turnstone Flyers up 3-1 over the SoCal Vaqueros. Vetsky now, Jason Vetsky taking on Lucas Courier. DeFosis gets it behind Vetsky. Vigno now, Vigno with the ball, close to a 2-on-1. Now, DeFosis sends it the wrong way. Leclerc needs to do something with this ball. Otherwise, it's going to roll out for a kick-in. But now, referee Aaron Wiley bringing the ball back. And if you're the Minnesota Northern Lights, you're probably not happy about that call. Now you're getting the ball behind the center line as opposed to around the Wildcats goal area. Lene Larson, Knudsen. Grant Larson sends it across Chelsea Knudsen. That ball tipped out by Courier, kick in for the Northern Lights. 10th minute on court 3, Circle City Rollers, San Jose Steamrollers tied at 1. Grant Larson with a shot, he goes wide of the post, and Knudsen couldn't get there in time. Larson, Courier, Larson with the deflection. Grant Larson's got positioning. Grant Larson trying to drive his way through. Austin LeClaire is right there. Grant Larson with the ball. Austin LeClaire holding him off. Good job by LeClaire. Grant Larson driving around. That ball still in play. That ball now off of Grant Larson. On court 2, Turnstone Flyers have scored again. It's now 4-1. SoCal Vaqueros having a bit of trouble generating some offense over there. And it's halftime, so we're going to take a break. It's 1-0, Minnesota Northern Lights. When we come back to the second half, you're watching the 2019 USPSA MK Battery Conference Cup Series. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second half of the Minnesota Northern Lights and Northeast Passage Wildcats. Northern Lights lead 1-0. For Power Soccer Shop, I'm Tony Jackson. Lucas Courier and the Wildcats start things off here. DeFosis has the ball. That ball comes out. DeFosis over to Vigno. That's close to a 2-on-1. The referee calls it Vigno and DeFosis. Lene Larson, Grant Larson, close to another 2-on-1. And the advantage is called Northern Lights heading down the floor. Lene Larson with a shot. And that ball just wide. Michael Sack, if he could just get a little bit on it with his guard, that would have been a goal. You see here, that ball comes loose to Lene Larson. And Michael Sack was right there. If he had just managed to tip the ball a tiny bit, that would have made it 2-0. But as it stands, it's still 1-0 Northern Lights. That ball is out of play. Another kick in coming up for Minnesota Northern Lights. On court 2, while we were away, Turnstone added a few more goals. It's now 6-1. Grant Larson misses that. It goes out for a goal kick. Circle City Rollers, San Jose Steamrollers, Circle City up 2-1. And on court 4, PRHC Chariots still lead the Arizona Heat by a score of 1-0. Lucas Courier, Lene Larson, Courier. Kick-in coming up for the Northern Lights. That ball comes through. Austin Leclerc. Grant Larson with a shot, saved by Leclerc. Lene Larson now, Michael Sachs there. Austin Leclerc now clearing the area. Austin Leclerc heading back the other way. Lene Larson gets pushed. Heavy contact, ball out of play. Kick in coming up for the Northeast Passage Wildcats. That ball comes all the way through to Vigno. Vigno with it. Vetsky, Vigno battling it out. Jason Vetsky dragging Ryan Vigno. But he does well to get it back, and now Ryan Vigno heading the other way. DeFosis taking on Lene Larson. Now DeFosis had his chair malfunction. The referee's going to call a 2-on-1 violation. The referee is not under any obligation to stop play because of a dead chair or any other equipment malfunction, unless it's a safety issue. But DeFosis is up and running again. We're going to get a set ball between Lene Larson and Spencer DeFosis. And DeFosis sends it out of play. Nice give and go between Lene and Grant Larson. Grant Larson, the kick out. Lucas Courier tries to clear it. Grant Larson stops the ball. Lucas Courier can't get it away from Grant Larson. That ball off of Courier. Lene Larson, Grant Larson. Grant Larson looking to kick out. That ball deflecting out for a Wildcat goal kick. I thought that Grant Larson, while he was down there, had some space behind LeClaire and between LeClaire and Courier. Lene Larson, that ball off of Ryan Vino. Grant Larson gets around Lucas Courier. That ball is out off of LeClaire. Corner kick coming up for the Northern Lights. On court 3, Circle City Rollers, San Jose Steamrollers. Circle City up 3-1. Now Lene Larson with a shot, and she just misses outside the post. Goal kick coming up for Northeast Passage. Still 1-0 in favor of the PRHC Chariots. They lead the Arizona Heat. Courier, Villeneuve, that ball bouncing off of, it looked like it bounced off of Villeneuve, so it's going to be another corner kick in favor of the Minnesota Northern Lights. Lene Larson to Grant Larson. Grant Larson tried to go back post again. Couldn't get it. And Lucas Courier, smart play, just pushing the ball down the floor to give Northeast Passage some room to work with. It looks like the Minnesota Northern Lights are going to make a change. Michael Sack coming on in his place. Number 13, Josh Miller. Nicely done by Lucas Courier, getting that ball off of Grant Larson. Kick in coming up. Wildcats trying to get some kind of offense going here. Lene Larson dragging Lucas Courier. Lene Larson, DeFosis. And there's a foul on Spencer DeFosis. The play continues. DeFosis really ramming into Lene Larson extremely hard. And now referee is going to call a 2-on-1 violation on the Northern Lights. Jason Vetsky cuts off that ball. Well read. Lucas Courier, nice turn. Another nice turn by Lucas Courier. That's close to a 2-on-1 violation. Ball is out of play, though. Kick in coming up for Northeast Passage. The Wildcats trying to find their offensive rhythm. That ball across, and that's going to be a foul. Direct free kick coming up for Northeast Passage. Oh, DeFosis misses that one. 31st minute. And the Minnesota Northern Lights are in control here, but the lead very slim. And Grant Larson just pushes right through Adam Villeneuve. And now Lucas Courier tracking back on defense. And he keeps the ball in play. Well done. Lene Larson passes off. DeFosis is there with it. Back to Lene Larson. Grant Larson now with the ball. And Austin LeClaire lets it roll out. Goal kick coming up for the Wildcats. Substitution on the floor. Spencer DeFosis coming off for Northeast Passage, coming back on. Ryan Vigno. And we have a final score on court 2. Turnstone Flyers 7. SoCal Vaqueros 1. Back here on court 1. A pass out to Lene Larson. Grant Larson with a shot. And a 2-on-1 violation called on the Minnesota Northern Lights. On court 3, Circle City Rollers opening things up. That score is 4-1 in their favor. Josh Miller and Lucas Courier colliding there. Josh Miller, Lene Larson. Oh, that ball slides through everyone. Lene Larson faked the shot. The Wildcats defenders both moved. You watch here the wall. Both players moved out, and that ball slid right behind Courier. 2-0 Minnesota Northern Lights. Now, while the game is not necessarily out of reach, given the way that the Northern Lights have been able to defend against Northeast Passage, the Wildcats have a tough task to score 2 goals to at least get a point out of this. Kick out, Lucas Courier going across, but it's blocked off by Lene Larson. Larson does really well reading angles and just being an overall defender. You can see she has the goalkeeper jersey on, and for good reason. She's just a fantastic defender and has superior ball control. 2-on-1 violation on the Minnesota Northern Lights. And right now, that's really the only thing stopping the Minnesota Northern Lights from extending their lead even further. They've been pretty much in control of the match outside of the first few minutes, where the Northeast Passage Wildcats were really putting a lot of pressure on their defense. But after that, it's been pretty much all Northern Lights. Courier, Lene Larson, Grant Larson with the ball. Grant Larson across to Chelsea Knutson. Chelsea Knutson couldn't find the ball. Kick in coming up for Northeast Passage. And Lene Larson just holding on to that ball. Now Larson driving into the goal area. Larson, the pass to Knutson. Oh, Chelsea Knutson, is that going to go through? It does. Chelsea Knutson with just a little touch splits the defenders. And watch it again. Lene Larson just lets go of the ball, and just a little touch was enough to beat Austin LeClaire and Lucas Courier. It's now 3-0 Minnesota Northern Lights. DeFosis. Lene Larson hits that ball into play. Ryan Vigneault taking the kick, and it goes right into Jason Vesky, but it skims off his chair. DeFosis now holds onto the ball. 2-on-1 violation on Northeast Passage. That ball goes out of play. No call, so kicking coming up for the Wildcats. Courier entering the goal area. Courier, the kick across, but not a lot of pace on it. Now Lene Larson driving back the other way. Shielding off Courier. DeFosis is going to have to come in and defend. DeFosis circling around, trying to keep the ball in play, but he can't. Kick in coming up for the Minnesota Northern Lights, trying to extend this 3-0 lead. Grant Larson, that ball gets across. And Knutson with a shot, saved by Lucas Courier. Knutson. Austin LeClaire now with the ball. LeClaire trying to drive around Larson, and that's going to be a difficult task as Lene Larson, very good one-on-one. LeClaire, however, gets away from her. Grant Larson's there, kicking coming up for the Northern Lights. DeFosis almost within 5 meters. That ball off of LeClaire. Grant Larson. Lene Larson saved by Courier. Lene Larson gets the ball between the two defenders. Now Lene Larson fighting. Grant Larson throwing his hands up in the air looking for a foul. Lene Larson backing the ball. Nicely done, Lucas Courier. The kick out, DeFosis across, and Vigneault, Ryan Vigneault, stopped by Jason Vetsky, and that's a 2-on-1 violation on the Wildcats. Good opportunity for Northeast Passage, but they just can't find their scoring prowess today. That ball out, kick in coming up. Minnesota Northern Lights, 39th minute. On court 4, it's still 1-0 PRHC Chariots against the Arizona Heat. The kick out, Courier. Vetsky just lets that ball roll out. It was always going wide. Looks like Jason Vetsky coming off. Michael Sack coming on in his place for the Minnesota Northern Lights. Oh, and Spencer DeFosis, heavy contact into Grant Larson. Larson may want to check his ribs. Little give and go between Grant and Lene Larson. The ball out of play. Kick in coming up for Northeast Passage. Lene Larson off of Lucas Courier. Grant Larson's going to have to hold on to this ball. DeFosis off of Grant Larson. Vigneault with the ball. Ryan Vigneault blocked by Lene Larson. Vigneault with it. Vigneault, Lene Larson. DeFosis has to move out of the way to avoid the 2-on-1 violation. And Lene Larson. Lucas Courier with a shot. And there's the final whistle. The Minnesota Northern Lights score 3 and win a shutout victory. 3-0 the final score over the Northeast Passage Wildcats. We're going to take a break. We have a lot more action still. You're watching the 2019 USPSA MK Battery Conference Cup Series.